To the Nursing Career Transformation Roundtable. My name is Kate Loving-Shank of katelovingshank.com, author of the Prayer Prescription series and creator of Kate Loving's Prayer podcast, prayer prescriptions that rewire assumptions about your everyday reality. Today, my guest is Drew Griffin, who is the author of Podcast Magazine and a former nurse. He is, and as we just mentioned before coming on the air just now, that once a nurse, always a nurse. So I'm sure he is obviously thinking a lot of how to help people in his online pursuits. He is a former hyperbaric nurse, and he has had a lot to do with healing gunshot wounds and ulcers from diabetes, and probably seeing a largely unhealthy population of people. And that was his job before he does what he does now, which is he actually does a lot with app development and or for mobile phones and tablets and such. And he has this podcasting magazine, and he has his own podcasting show. So let's welcome Drew to the Nursing Career Transformation Roundtable. Hello, Drew.
Hey, Kate. Thank you so much for that eloquent introduction. You put me to shame. So I do appreciate the opportunity to finally meet your acquaintance. I've been a longtime follower and admirer of your show and just the information that you're putting out there. So thanks so much for having me today.
Well, thank you for that kind compliment. I appreciate that as well. So let us know, as a nurse, what drew you to leaving nursing per se? I mean, leaving the bedside, as it were, and going out and doing what you're doing. And tell us what you're doing. So I'm sure I'm not really as articulate about that as you will be.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Well, to really be transparent about it, I spent about 23 years in healthcare, primarily in wound care, as a certified wound care specialist, a wound care nurse, predominantly in hyperbarics. So we dealt with a lot of post-op surgical patients, diabetics, people that suffered from burns and gunshot wounds, pretty much, some pretty gory stuff. And one topic that I don't hear a lot of nurses talking about is how nurses can be traumatized, by working with patients at their worst every single day. And to be transparent, I think it just kind of caught up with me. And I saw patients every day losing limbs, losing their lives, becoming septic and things, and we did everything at our disposal to help them. And it takes its toll on you. So
yes.
you don't hear a lot about healthcare workers suffering from, some sort of post-traumatic stress disorder or just being traumatized by, seeing patients like this every day. And I've always been a technologist. I've always appreciated and embraced technology. I tinkered with computers and software and all kinds of stuff. So at the later part of my career, the iPhone just came out, and the advent of the SDK, I saw an opportunity here. Now, nurses, you yourself and the other nurses that are watching this or listening to this program, we don't realize how many people we affect by providing care. The prescription for caring for somebody is free. And it takes its toll on us, but we don't realize, we affect the patient themselves, we affect their family members, and countless other people that are affected by their lives. We touch a lot of people's lives every single day, and that number is just countless. If you could think back over your career of how many patients that you cared for, you wouldn't be able to count the number of people that you've cared for, and then their families' lives and the people that they associate with every single day. So it's just ever growing. Well, with the iPhone, I know this is kind of a big leap and maybe a far stretch, but I saw an opportunity here. I saw the way that people were engaging with their mobile devices. I saw an opportunity. I said, wow, if the greater part of a lot of people would have one of these devices inside their pocket and they're playing with it, they're checking their email, they're interacting with games and that sort of thing. Would there be a way for me as a healthcare provider, as someone that educates patients about diabetes, about disease processes, about healing, about caring for themselves, would there be a way for me to touch people's lives through technology? And the answer was yes. So I ended up developing an application that was a very simple application. It was a way for diabetics to track their hemoglobin A1Cs and their activities and things of that nature, and just to kind of keep a log, right? It was a digital log for diabetics.
Right.
And after the app was first published, I saw the app get up to somewhere about 25,000 downloads in less than a month. And I was blown away. I couldn't believe that my simple, very, very basic application could touch that many people so quickly. And I just thought, wow, this is the way I need to go. So combining technology and knowledge base of healthcare and how it might affect people, I saw an opportunity to affect way, way more than 25,000 people. I could probably touch, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, or help other people that had ideas to digitize their ideas into an application and communicate that to other people. So that's where I took the leap, and I haven't looked back.
Oh, that's fantastic. I just want to make a point about post-traumatic stress with nurses. I know that I think that what happens is that nurses are first responders. It sounds like you were often nearly a first responder. Maybe the people were first responders who brought to you the gunshot wound and so forth. But that, after some time, policemen, service people in the military, of course the ambulance workers themselves are constantly brought into these realms of desperate situations with people. And so I believe that probably the nurses that are watching this who are interested in entrepreneurial activities have post-traumatic stress. And it is something we really, I think, if you're getting involved in doing something that you really love, like I write books, I like to do podcasting, I like to come online like this with you, that kind of heals these wounds that we have. So I know that I can't imagine doing app development, but I know you've written a book, and I've heard that it's not so hard to develop apps. Is that something that you can speak to? What is that book called, anyway?
Well, yeah, it's called. Thank you for.
Down somewhere. I'm sure you know what it is.
No problem. Thanks for.
I lost you. I lost your audio.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks for mentioning that. The book is called Mobile App Formula: How to Develop Mobile Apps Even If You're Not a Programmer. Pretty straightforward. There are ways to start to develop mobile applications. You'll need to understand some terminology. You'll understand how you'll have to learn how to program some of these things. But there are ways that you can develop mobile applications even if you don't know the language. Much like an author, you don't necessarily have to write a book. You don't need to be a particularly good English speaker. You can simply dictate into your iPhone or a dictaphone or something like that, and then have someone edit it for you and put into proper grammar and things of that nature. Technically, you're outsourcing. You get your ideas down on paper, you construct it, and then you have that book published. Well, you can start that way too. Get your idea and find or partner with somebody in order to, quote-unquote, develop an application. So there's a difference between a developer and a programmer. Right. I'm both now. I understand language. I understand code. When I first started, I didn't know very much. I needed to learn the language. I needed to learn syntax. I needed to learn how to hack and to do things and put it together until I had a finished product. Well, the book walks people through how they can publish a mobile application without knowing code, both on an outsourcing side and then using services that more or less are drag and drop. type of templates. You've got WordPress processors. You know how to launch Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or something like that, and you can put little things together. It still has a function, still has the ability to do that, and then hopefully once you have your creation published out there to the world, it might entice you to learn a little bit more code, learn a little bit more of that service of, hey, how can I do this inside my application, and then figure it out. Learn, study, have someone teach you. There are many types of free and paid courses that help you scale, and that's what I did.
Right. Wow, that's kudos to you. That's terrific. That is terrific. You must actually, you might be a brilliant person. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know about that, but I'll take it. Thank you.
How can nurses use podcasting to get their message out to the world, whatever that message might be?
Well, yeah, podcasting is nothing more than dissemination of information. We're talking. You and I are doing a podcast right now of sorts, using technology like Skype or Google Plus. Recording your voice is a podcast. Mm-hmm. A podcast is nothing more than what they call an MP3 file. It's an audio file that's uploaded to iTunes or some type of server that's out there. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's just where your audio file is stored so people can access it. Right. You've got an audio, you've got an MP3 player, your iPhone, your iPod of yesteryear. Think of it as a CD that you're able to get that music from or that audio file. Mm-hmm. So nurses, we talk about things like this every day on the units. We talk about disease processes. We talk about coping. We deal with teaching people how to take care of themselves or take care of themselves better. And that is a huge opportunity. We don't always have the opportunity to sit at bedside and teach people. Mm-hmm. But if we're busy passing out medications or changing dressings or responding to a code, it takes us away from having the ability to engage with those patients. But giving them access to a podcast that teaches them about their disease process and puts that information at the forefront is never a better opportunity. That patient has the choice to either listen or not to listen. Right. And with the constraints of time and how many patients we're taking care of, why not use this as an opportunity to educate them? So that's how they can use podcasting.
Wow, yeah, that is very powerful, very powerful, and then it expands people's online visibility, which would help them to become better known. Apparently, when people listen to your voice, they are somehow drawn to a part of you that you're a part of your identity, and they feel like they know you. And I think that might be part of the podcasting power. Whatever it is that you're trying to impart out into the world, your voice can be a truly magical way to get them to know you and like you and trust you.
It's a fantastic word. I love the word magical. It really is. We learn, if you go back to your year one in nursing school, Nursing 101, we discover, or at least recognize and start to comprehend, that there are multiple ways that people learn. And they learn visually, they learn tactilely, they learn by repetition and, hearing. They're an auditory listener. A lot of people are auditory listeners. They're auditory learners. And if you have the ability to listen to something over and over and over again, you've got that recognition. Right. I don't think there's a viewer here that hasn't listened to the radio and couldn't mention, one song that constantly is popping up in their radio show. They've got recognition for a song. That's why the musicians play music, for recognition. They hear that song over and over and over again. We can recite lyrics to, I don't know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or whatever song or theme that you can think of. You've learned that by listening. It's a great way to communicate. It's a great way to connect with people. And from a marketing perspective, it's a great way to get to know, like, and trust that information that's being put out there. So podcasting, I think, is a fabulous, fabulous tool to help get your word out there.
And I'm sure the nurses out there would love to know, how does a person make money doing podcasting?
Well, there's a lot of different ways, and the funny thing is I'm actually finishing up a little book and course about this very subject matter, about how to monetize your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it a little bit differently. I developed a mobile application, and that mobile application that I primarily promote is called Podcasting Magazine.
Right.
It's a great way to take people from listening into something a little bit more tactile. They can access it on the iPhone and the iPad. They can swipe between the magazines. They can watch a video inside there. They can listen to things inside there. And there's ways that you can monetize your podcast through sponsorships, through selling products directly from whatever your audio file is. You can say something like, go to Kate's website, and you give your web address. They come there and they discover a little bit more about you. Same thing with this. This is a great way to take them away from the audio side into something a little bit more tactile, whether it's a book, a CD program, an audio file, images. Great way for nurses. I mean, here's a great idea. Somebody that is a nurse that's out there, here's a great way to do it. If you're in wound care, currently I don't believe that there's a podcast out there about wound care. If you're a wound care nurse, great way to connect with all the diabetics out there. And we know that those numbers are going through the roof.
Right.
Here's an opportunity. Start a podcast about wound care and diabetes. Now think about all the drug companies that are out there that might want to get their information out there to the world.
Right.
Or the dressing care companies, or diabetic clinics, and you've got hospitals and all kinds of different places that want to get the awareness of their surgical procedures and stuff that's out there. Start that, and then couple it with a website that provides information to local people.
Right.
Great way to start a business that way.
And no, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also that your podcasting magazine, I just wanted to help people. How can they find out about your podcasting magazine, and where do they go to find it? And also, what is your website?
Sure. Well, if you don't mind, I'll just give you two. My personal web address is Drew Griffin, DREW Griffin, GRIFFIN.co. No M on there, just .co. I kind of just talk about technology and motivation and leveraging emerging technologies there. But for the podcasting magazine, the easiest and quickest way to find and discover that is going to podcastingmag.com.
Mm-hmm.
There you'll be able to see a little bit of, you'll get it almost immediately. Once you go to that web address, you'll see, okay, this is a magazine that's found on iPhones and iPads. It's going to be available on Android somewhere in the middle of February, early March, and that way it'll be on both major platforms. If they wanted to download it, it's completely free to download, so they can go to podcastingmag.com/iTunes, and it's a completely free download. You can download the magazine. There are some paid issues here and there, but they're for more premium issues around some technology, and they're few and far between, but we're talking 99 cents, so it's not a big investment at all.
Right. Well, I love the podcasting magazine because, just as you mentioned, you are combining different learning modalities, with the hearing, the vision, because you do have YouTube or videos inside there, and then you have a lot of written explanations, and that does satisfy all kinds of learning needs and different learning needs that people have, because people have different learning styles, and that's a great idea. So that's brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't really want. I know we don't really need to go into the technical aspects of podcasting, but recently I have subscribed or bought the audio podcasting platform called Audello. And I was wondering if you had any. Would you recommend that to the people here?
Yeah, actually, I've had the opportunity to beta test that program, and it's a great little program to help distribute your information, kind of synchronize everything very quickly, without having to do a lot of moving pieces. So the creators of that particular program have been around for quite some time, and I only see good things from that particular program.
Josh Bartlett,
Yep.
who is the creator of Aldello, now has his own podcast called Beyond the Hype with Matt Wolf. Now, what I found, I've listened to a few of those, and I just love the way they kind of banish some of the beliefs that people have about starting a podcast. You know, that you have to hone in on your target audience. You have to do some things that might take a lot of time. Well, they're just saying that they say that your target audience is really yourself. There's really no difference between you and your target audience, so that the more that you know yourself, the more you know your target audience. And I thought that simplified things in a way that I could totally grasp. Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, I think podcasting and an audience is kind of this, hodgepodge theory that's out there. If you've got something to say, I think you can start a podcast. Identifying and having thoughtful discussions around topics and not being too straightforward or whatever, depending on the type of style that you have. If it's an interview style, something like this, it's a great way to extract information and learn. If you're an expert, it's a great way to transfer that knowledge to other people. If you're interested in something, I guarantee other people out there are very interested in what you have to say. As nurses, we deal with some crazy things, in healthcare that people just don't want to talk about. But in some cases, and at some point, they're going to become a patient.
Yes.
So, there's one opportunity just in nursing. But from a podcasting perspective, there's so many topics that haven't even been surfaced yet. That the opportunity is just so amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
I have also heard that if you podcast every day, you have more of an opportunity to widen different subject matters, whereas if you do a podcast every, twice a week or even once every 2 weeks, you have to be more specific. But somebody like me, I am curious about so many different things that even go far beyond medicine. What kind of suggestions do you have for people like me who want to just, as you say, impart information and spirituality and stories? Storytelling is huge. How, am I making a mistake by having too many interests in a podcast, or should I be honing in more, or what?
Well, no, I think if you have a theme, it's great, but we're influenced by everything that's around us from a spiritual side. I come from a very strong spiritual side. Grew up Irish Catholic and kind of migrated into the Jesuits. I went to Jesuit schools and kind of thought things a little bit differently and kind of experienced things differently in my relationship with my Creator, my God, and things of that nature. So that's been a very big influence on me, and I get that from you as well. Blogs, reading blogs, and social media. It's an amazing the amount of information that we come across every single day. And what makes you unique is that you've got a perspective, you've got a thought, you've got, hey, let's talk about this. This kind of struck me today as something important that I thought would be interesting to talk about. Just this past week we had Martin Luther King Day.
Right.
And that's a huge topic. It's a very sore topic for a lot of people, but it's also a healing and cathartic process to have that discussion. Healthcare. You've got so many opportunities to talk about. I mean, technology. We talked about Josh Bartlett's program, and I'm sure from the internet marketing perspective, you're inundated with products and sales pitches and things, and how to leverage these tools, these tips, these tricks, these points of view to do things that are good, to how to publish your thoughts. Books. I mean, there's a topic right there. Go to Amazon. You could find hundreds of thousands of books and topics that you could discuss and review every single day, every single one having a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's a magnificent universe, and I think that just makes you unique if you've got perspective and interest in a lot of different things.
Yes, as far as here's a good one I enjoy doing is reading books and talking about the books that I'm reading, and then interviewing the authors over on Blog Talk Radio. That's like a neat way to combine the radio with the podcasting with the ideas, and I think that people in our society today are not reading as much as they used to. So I think that would be is a good contribution to the world to be talking about books at all. And and also there's just so many beautiful things that are being done in the world today that I believe that people are changing the world with their thoughts and their actions, and it's just a great, that would, in and of itself, there's like an endless supply of information and things that you can talk about there. That's for sure.
Never before in the face of time have we had such an amazing opportunity. If we just talk about Amazon,
right?
Just the opportunity to self-publish, and the days of yesteryear where you're going to be discovered, they're gone. There are still going to be people that are picked up by major labels and published that way. But I wasn't discovered for Mobile App Formula. I had an opportunity to get my information out there and say, hey, look, if I can do it, if a wound care nurse that spent most of his time in an oxygen chamber could put pen to paper or finger to keyboard and write a book that teaches, teaches anyone to be able to take their idea and create a mobile application, it's such an amazing opportunity. You can just take and spread your word to anybody that's out there. And it's a little bit different than a blog. It's just a way, it's an opportunity that you can take your information and say, hey, I created this, here's a hard copy, and if you prefer the digital copy, you can get it on Kindle.
Yeah.
It's a great business card that you can hand to somebody, and they're not going to forget you if you hand them a book. That's
right. That's exactly right. We had a tragedy in our community just this week in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania community, where a really wonderful, gentle, kind man that he seemed to know everybody in Lancaster. He was an intellectual. He was a brilliant man. You would see him about town writing in his book. He would be writing notes. He would be reading. He'd be writing, and everybody just loved him. Well, he was killed. Really kind of tragic. Well, just any kind of thing like that. But it was a hit-and-run accident, and he died instantly. But all of those gruesome details were just horrifying to everybody in Lancaster. So anyway, one time we used to have in town called the Lancaster Independent Press, and a group of us were keeping it going for a number of years. And this man's name is Chuck Lehman. He wrote this amazing article, the syndicated thing that he did every week, where he reviewed movies. And a friend of mine has all of those newspapers up in his attic. He's the only one that has the hard copy to this newspaper. And I just thought it would be so cool to take those movie reviews and put them into probably a Create Space book and raise money here to light up these pedestrian walkways so that people are seen, and without being, there's a lot of hit and runs here. We've had a lot of them, and we need to, and this particular death has brought to the forefront in people's minds the absolute epidemic that we're having with this. And so we're really all excited about this, and I thought it would really be fun. Now, where Chuck used to sit in this one establishment called The Fridge in Lancaster, where he used to sit, it would be so cool to go to that table and compile this work and have people who are interested and let them all know in town to come over and then, do a little help with it. It would be a community effort. It would be fun, and it would help Lancaster as well. So that was just something that came up over the last few days, and I will certainly be podcasting about that.
I'll gladly spread the word and look, that's such an amazing thing that you're doing, and the thought process, taking something that was so tragic and converting it into something that's going to help the community by leveraging technology, leveraging community. It's a beautiful thing. It's really a great creative way to connect a lot of people and kind of give back in his name. That's a great way.
Yeah, yes, and to me, what I've noticed with the comments in the paper and the way people are handling it, it's devastating tragedy. People are weeping, they're crying, and they're just, oh, isn't this terrible? This is the worst thing that ever happened. It is terrible, but there's so many ways to transform tragedy into something that is meaningful to so many other people.
Yeah,
So that was my take on the whole thing.
sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. But technology is at the heart of being able to do these things, and I just don't want people to be afraid of technology. I mean, somebody like me is nothing of the caliber of yourself with your knowledge of technology, and I think that we can all learn from each other. I've known that I understand. I really believe that the world of the internet and the people I know on the internet, the people I know online, are the most helpful, wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And it's interesting to know that you are so close to us in Philadelphia. I just
Yeah.
realized that another wonderful man I have been communicating with for a long time lives in York County, and I just think it's a great opportunity to meet people face to face. Now I'm as close to face to you right now than I probably could ever be, but the opportunity is there for us to meet in person, and that's very exciting. And
It,
we're just expanding ourselves for all over the world with these kinds of opportunities to speak to each other. It's so cool.
Yeah, and that's what podcasting does. That's what this medium does. It really just democratizes the ability to connect, and it's wonderful. I mean, we have a mutual friend, Mike Sevilla, Dr. Mike Sevilla. I think you're familiar with him, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we missed each other a couple times. I actually live outside of Philly in Douglasville, which isn't too. We're not too far from Hershey,
No,
and
yeah,
often he goes to Hershey because of the AMA meets there for their conventions and stuff. And I was out there for PodCamp Ohio. I met him out there, and we see each other online. I share his blog posts and all kinds of stuff. And tomorrow, through social media and through technology, he's actually, I believe, presenting at TEDx in Ohio tomorrow.
wow.
So what a wonderful way to take your knowledge and connect people around similar interests.
Yes, yes. I really appreciate all of your great ideas. What would be your takeaway for the nurses and for everybody else who's listening today about how, not to be afraid of technology and how they can, do so much by stepping out of their living rooms and even out of their communities and having the world as their audience.
Yeah, in some respects, we all suffer from the imposter syndrome. We are afraid to put ourselves out there. And as Seth Godin says, you have to put yourself out there. You have to ship your knowledge. And we do it every day as nurses. We do it every day as human beings. We have thoughts. We have cares. What a great way to touch so many more lives by not holding in to yourselves. You have a moral obligation to share your thoughts, to share your emotion and your dreams, and why not do it through something that you really are very good at, and have some thought. You'll learn. And if the worst thing is that you learn a new skill, is it going to be so bad?
Right. And not only that, as you just said, it actually is bringing democracy back.
Yeah.
It's making people have a very profound give and take of ideas without arguing. Having, and not just necessarily bringing to you the people who are just like you in your beliefs or even your political beliefs, but a whole new world of respect for all people, all human beings. And I see that on the internet more than I may see it out in the world sometimes. But I know that the internet has such a very important role to play in enlightenment of our whole species and preserving the world and keeping things alive.
I agree. Couldn't say it any better.
Okay, so I'm going to let you get back with your day, Drew. I really appreciate it. I want everybody to look up your magazine and get on board with that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very, very much. Goodbye,
Have a great
everybody.
day.
Thank you.